Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Slappin Kpop Podcast. Today, it is I, Lucas, and I am joined with Kayla.
Hello.
Maria.
Hey.
Sammy.
Hi.
And today, we have our first ever guest on the podcast, and this is Tucker, also Tuck. And he is most famously known as one of the mods on r/Kpop. You can go ahead and introduce yourself, give some extra information if you want.
Thank you. Feel free to call me Tuck or Tucker. Either one works. And yeah, I'm one of the mods on r/Kpop. And on r/Kpop, I mostly work on organizing the Reddit AMAs that we do. So we host a lot of AMAs with a lot of K-pop artists. And in my role as a moderator, I spend a lot of time reaching out to different Korean entertainment companies, working with Western publicists, working with different influencers, and just trying to get people to come onto our site and talk to our users. r/Kpop is one of the largest Western, if not the largest Western K-pop forum, where people can come discuss K-pop. And a lot of people use it as a news aggregator as well. If you're unfamiliar with it, people just come to r/Kpop and they can check out and see what the latest K-pop news is from a variety of sites that all gets aggregated onto our homepage.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So you might also know me from KCON, where I've been a special guest there for the past 2 years at KCON New York and LA, and where I posted panels on things like behind the scenes of online K-pop communities, and also panels about breaking news and scandals in K-pop with a lot of K-pop journalists.
Also, before we get into it, you might notice that Dan is not on this episode, which it's usually not uncommon for us to be missing from the episode.
But Dan is not going to be around for a little bit because Dan has been hit by a truck.
That is the truth.
And we say that with full seriousness.
That's actually
Dan
true.
was hit by a truck.
Yep.
I can speak for this as, the person who probably knows him best is he was walking home from work on his unicycle. Well, riding home from work on his unicycle, because that's a truth.
That's the thing he does.
That's a truth as well. And he saw a car coming down the road, saw him like very, very far away. Was like, it's fine. And the car proceeded to run a red light and then hit him and threw him 50 feet. And
50 feet.
He's
fine.
He's fine.
He is fine.
He's fine. He fractured his hip and got a very bad concussion and obviously bruises all over. But besides that, he is alive and well. Yeah, he's alive and well.
All things considered, he walked around, or he
he's definitely still alive and not dead or paralyzed. So,
he will be back.
You all live surreal lives.
We have
totally.
If you go through the stories that the knee slappers have aggregated about our lives, there's some oh boy.
There's some stories.
I just also wanted to say that I'm really happy to be talking about social media here, as that's what I've talked about the most at KCON in the kind of behind the scenes of online K-pop communities panels that I've done, where we talk about the different websites that Western fans use to interact with K-pop online and how that's developed over the past few years and what the current kind of picture is of K-pop on social media and what kind of communities exist out there for the fans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to go ahead and start. But actually, before we start, I kind of just want to know a little about you and your like K-pop journey. So can you just let us know like how long have you been listening to K-pop and what your favorite groups are, and just a little bit of overview about like how you came into K-pop and just how much do we like you? So just no pressure, but
absolutely. So I first started listening to K-pop in 2012, and the first K-pop music video and song that I ever heard was "Oh" by Girls' Generation.
Oh my god, that was me too. I'm not even kidding you. "Oh" was my first K-pop song ever.
"Oh" was my first K-pop song, and someone
really
sent it or posted it on an anime forum that I was on. So in 2012 I was 13 years old, so that was the first time I was exposed to K-pop. And so "Oh" and I saw G. And those are the first two K-pop music videos I saw in January 2012, and then I didn't listen to any K-pop until Gangnam Style came out.
And after the same story as well.
And after Gangnam Style came out, I was like, remember those K-pop music videos that I listened to? And I was kind of more interested in learning more about it, and it was actually through the YouTube channel Eat Your Kimchi, that I ended up
Yes, I remember them.
learning like a lot about, I guess, kind of a very beginning knowledge of K-pop, and I kind of was only introduced to K-pop for the first couple months, I guess for the first year really, through whatever Eat Your Kimchi was covering and on their own chart aggregator, which they used to have on their website. So I used to like obsess over their charts and like see which songs they would cover for K-pop Music Monday and stuff like that. But I was a huge Eat Your Kimchi fan back in like 2012, 2013. And I was a really big, my favorite group back in 2013, and I followed them from their debut, was Ladies Code. And I was a huge Ladies Code fan. They were like the one group that I would always make sure to like watch all of their content. And when the Ladies Code accident happened in 2014, I kind of fell out of touch with K-pop for a while. It was also, I was starting in high school, and for a couple years, I really wasn't listening to that much K-pop in 2014 and 2015. So the joke on my friends is, there's a song from 2015, I like more often than not just don't know it. Strangely enough, it's like a massive gap in my K-pop. I'm trying my best to like listen to as many songs from 2015, and it's something that I've been doing over the past couple of years to just like catch up on what I've missed. And then in 2016, I went with the American government to Korea on a State Department run program called the National Security Language Initiative for Youth. So basically, they'll fund students to like even pay. We got paid actually to learn Korean for a summer, and that's kind of how I started learning Korean. And when I was there, like who had K-pop knowledge mostly from 2013, not going to lie, I was like, Nine Muses, everyone, and then they were like, no, it's all about EXO Monster and like bang bang bang. And there were a bunch of K-pop fans there, and ever since I got back from that summer I spent in Korea in 2016, I've just been really deep nonstop into the K-pop world. It was after then that I ended up becoming a moderator on our K-pop, and I started organizing the AMAs for our K-pop in the beginning of 2018. My favorite groups nowadays are GFriend and Luna. And I know that you all like your boy groups, so I will say that my favorite boy groups are TXT and Victon.
Those are good.
Those are good groups. Good choices.
Quality.
I am the Luna fan of this crowd over here.
That's
So
fine.
You are.
someone has
We have one.
We have
And,
one.
yeah, GFriend would be my favorite group. So because I had gone to Korea and I had done an intense language course and I kept studying, when I became a moderator on our K-pop, I was probably the best Korean speaker they had. So that's how I kind of fell into being the one who was always communicating with the companies and the entertainment companies. And also I've learned a lot of business Korean, not just from doing that, but also talking to my Korean friends at university. So I'm a university student now, and I have a lot of friends from Korea, and we work together sometimes on the business emails to make sure that we are kind of expressing the best, selling our K-pop the best to encourage artists to come onto our site and interact with our users. So my friends really don't get enough credit in helping me write the emails and just spell checking them and making sure that I'm representing my best face to JYP Entertainment, which is so stressful.
Yeah, I imagine that would be like a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, that
no
sounds
pressure at all.
very stressful.
That sounds kind of sketch.
Seriously though, you actually have to
content to
literally talk to representatives from JYP face to face, like not in person, but like through like email or something, or
Yes.
straight up. That's impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
Because actually, so when we did the Day 6 AMA, that was through Hello 82, so I wasn't talking directly with people from JYP. But when we organized the AMA for Park Jimin from 15 and when she was still under JYP Entertainment, that was one of the most stressful experiences of my life, because we were talking to her managers and her management team from JYP. And sometimes when I'm organizing the AMAs, we're doing all the organization in English. So I'm emailing them in English. whoever I'm organizing with, oftentimes a publicist, will speak English. You know, they are an English speaking publicist. Sometimes I'm speaking to the Korean staff in English as well, but sometimes I am doing the entire organizational process in Korean emails back and forth with people. And that is always a bit nerve-wracking because sometimes there are little bits of miscommunication, and I can tell one of those stories if you guys would like about some miscommunication that I've had. Let me know when, because I don't know exactly how you want to structure this.
Well, we've transitioned over into the AMAs, so
Okay.
We definitely have.
Okay.
so I guess we can just start with, how do the AMAs, like, what is the process? Like, who goes into contact with whom? Like, what happens?
It's really just a huge mix of things. So when we were first starting off with the AMAs, so RKpop had some AMAs before I started organizing AMAs in 2018, but those AMAs were mostly situations where one-off Redditor came to the moderators at the time and wanted to specifically promote a group. So where the moderators of RKpop had been contacted by a company or a publicist, or like by My Music Taste, which still happens to this day, and were asked if a group could do an AMA. And some amazing AMAs were organized that way. Like back in 2014, 2015, 2016, like with Mamamoo and with New East and with Card, they're all AMAs that were organized before my time organizing them. And when I started as a moderator, I was like, we have this amazing platform. We have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Lots of other subreddits host AMAs with really important, Western actors and musicians and celebrities. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be actively trying to get K-pop stars, even if there is a language barrier, to come on or K-pop. And there are also so many English-speaking idols. So very often when we're targeting someone to try to get them to join AMA, we are often trying to find people or groups that have at least one English speaker, or we'll ask soloists who are English speakers to do it. So how it started when I was first there is I just started like DMing idols and companies on Instagram and trying to find listed like emails on websites and kind of pitch the idea of a Reddit AMA to them by talking about things like our viewership stats and our user base and how many monthly users we had and kind of the audience that they could expect to have if they were to come on our K-pop and do an AMA. It's not just about the time itself, like the hour or two that an artist might spend, but it is a lot of essentially free promotion for artists and groups and influencers when they come do it, because what will happen is we will pin the announcement to the front page of our K-pop for a couple of days before the AMA happens, and then after the AMA happens, we'll pin the AMA itself. So just to make sure that our users are able to see kind of what is one of our K-pop's kind of few exclusive content offerings, which are the AMAs. Since we're DMing people a lot to get them to do the AMAs, we ended up getting more traction. I got to know after I went to KCON in summer of 2018 and was on one panel, I got to know a lot of people kind of who were more industry insiders and used connections that I made through KCON to get other AMAs. So some of the AMAs come from that, but there are still AMAs that come from just us like cold emailing people. And then after, I would say around the beginning of 2019, we actually started to get more people reaching out to us and contacting us interested in doing an AMA. So some of the best AMAs that we've had are through people reaching out to us, or kind of a long-standing contact that we've developed with someone who is constantly feeding artists to us when they are representing someone. And then we can basically do an AMA for that artist, but more importantly, it's for our users. The first thing that we really think about when we, agree to do an AMA with someone on our K-pop is whether or not that artist has fans on our site, right? There's no point in us doing an AMA if the artist doesn't really have any fans, and they're not going to be getting any questions from the users on our site. So that's kind of our vetting process with deciding who we're going to do an AMA with. And luckily for us, most of the people that come to us or that we reach out to are, K-pop soloists or K-pop groups, and inevitably they have fans on our site because we're, the K-pop subreddit. There's fans of all sorts of groups on our site. And yeah, so we've been really lucky that more and more people have been reaching out to us to organize stuff. But it is still just a big combination of us reaching out to people, connections that we have, reaching out to them and hearing from them if any of the groups that they work with are interested in doing an AMA, and then just sometimes getting random emails from groups asking if they can do an AMA.
So we're really big fans of Card on this podcast. If
Yeah.
people didn't pick up on that by now.
Mhm.
And so we had talked beforehand, and you had said that you had organized one of the Card AMAs. So do you have any fun stories or anything from that? Or
I can talk about it. So we had a
Yeah.
series of AMAs. Some of our actually most well-known AMAs probably are the ones that we organized with Hello 82. And your listeners might be familiar with Hello 82, which is quite a prominent YouTube channel aimed at Western fans of K-pop that launched in the beginning of 2019. So when Hello 82 was first launching, we had a connection who was working there, and we were able to organize some of their first content that they were doing, which is actually that they would video artists, or rather film artists, doing AMAs on our site as kind of a precursor to their now existing Q&A series. They've kind of cut us out, but we're only a little salty. But we organized a series of AMAs with Hello 82 where the artists would come into their studio, film the AMA, and that their staff members would do the translation for the artists. And then, of course, the questions would be coming from our user base, and the answers would be posted on our site. And our users would have the benefit of not only getting to have their questions answered by artists. I realize we never actually explained what an AMA is. It's an Ask Me Anything. So
it's kind of self-explanatory.
I suppose it is. It's
most of our viewers have probably seen at least the Hello 82 ones, or Q&As in general. Or
I mean, it's basically just a Q&A where Reddit users will get to ask questions to their favorite, idols
person,
and
or in any
influencers
context,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, r/AMA
so-
does exist, or like IAMA,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So.
But if you're not a Redditor, I realize you might be unfamiliar with the term AMA, but it just means ask me anything. So yeah, before Hello 82 did their more recent kind of Q&A series that they host with idols, they have one now where they do like a relay Q&A thing, which I think is really cool. It's a great idea. We did a lot of AMAs with them where the artists would go in, they would film a couple other content. They would generally film other content while they were at Hello 82, in addition to filming an AMA. And the AMA takes about an hour of their time to answer the questions. They would live translate, they would answer the questions. And from our side, basically, when we were organizing those with Hello 82, it was great because they would say, we have this artist coming in. Are you guys interested in doing an AMA? And it would be like Card or Day 6. And we'd be like, yes, absolutely. We'd love to do an AMA. But the only struggle with that is because they were coming in kind of during normal work hours. In Korea, we had to do, and of course, I live in the UK, and a lot of our moderators live in Europe, actually, and a couple of them live in America. We were announcing the AMAs at like all sorts of weird times for us, and they were happening at like all sorts of weird times. So I was like, I think I was asleep during the actual like happening time of the Card AMA. Sorry. But I got to hear a lot about it and like how it went from my connection who was working at Hello 82 at the time when we were doing the AMAs with them. Unfortunately, after my friend who was working there left, we haven't been able to do more AMAs with the Hello 82 team, but it was really a great partnership for us because that's actually one of the reasons why a lot of groups have reached out to us. They're like, we saw the AMA thing that you did with the Hello 82. Can we do something similar?" And we're like, "Well, we can't really record it for you like a video anymore, but like if you still want to come talk to our users, we're definitely still available." And that has worked out for us a couple times. So.
Mm-hmm.
So about the card AMA specifically, that was just one that we organized with Hello 82. I remember it being like a really quick turnaround because when they were first launching, they were like really unsure what artists they were going to get in their doors and which ones would be willing to do an AMA. So Card had done an AMA previously on our K-pop back in 2017 when they first started out, and I wasn't involved in organizing that because it was before I was a moderator on the subreddit. So I know that when they did the AMA, they were, and I think in the AMA video, they do shout out to the fact that they had done one before and that they were excited to be back for their second one, which is always nice to hear. And I think my friend who was working there at the time is a big fan of JSF, so really
I'm a big fan of
excited to be able
JSF.
to see
I
him
think
there.
I think the other people in this podcast know how big of a fan of JSF I am.
Yeah.
Yes, you
And
are.
all of the members of Card, I love them
We
all.
love Card on this podcast.
We do. We
We're
have a card counter on this podcast.
Yes,
It's
we
not
do.
been updated in a minute, but it's
It's
very much
updated now.
Updated now. Card
there we
counter.
go.
Boom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, actually, Tuck, I got a question for you.
Yeah,
'cause,
Card Counter
if you're
82.
Oh,
Probably. It's not far off.
Sorry.
Around that.
It's close. It's very close. You're
It's
not.
probably-
You joke,
Jeez.
but
You joke.
actually, I do have a question about
Mhm.
the Gongwon Sonyo ones because I know Lena did one by herself, if I'm not mistaken, and then I think as a group they did one together. I'm curious how
Yes.
those ones came about.
Oh
Because I did
god,
like Gongwon
okay.
Sonyo.
So I'm a big fan of them. I'm trying to remember how I organized the first one. I can scroll back through my email, but that was one that I organized through a long series of emails back and forth with their management team. I think that might have been one of the ones where we just like emailed their publicly listed email with kind of a pitch about doing an AMA. And I normally write the pitches when I'm writing these emails to companies, and I send the email with the same message in English and Korean to just give them the opportunity to respond to me in whatever language they want to respond to me in. And I'm like, please English, because then it's easier for me to write back emails. But I got, an interested email back in Korean, and it ended up being about, I think, a series of 22 back and forth emails in Korean. Gongwon Sonyo really makes me practice my Korean because we always write a lot of emails back and forth. But organizing both the solo AMA for Lena and also the group AMA that we had earlier this year have been really like nice, smooth processes. And actually, both of them are quite there's interesting stories behind both of them. One thing that I was unsure when we were organizing the first one, I kept trying to ask them, and I think a classic like me struggling to understand exactly what's going on, was we're trying to figure out if the first AMA was going to be the whole group or if it was just going to be Lena. And then like a couple days before we had to announce it, they're like, we think it will just be Lena because she's the only one who really speaks English. And we're like, okay, cool. And we did that one with her. And actually, so when like the AMA gets posted and stuff like that, and when the announcement gets posted, I have to like approve the thread, and then also like we try to coordinate our social media posts. So like as soon as it's posted, I have to like post on our Twitter and our Instagram, letting our followers know on our Twitter and Instagram that the AMA is happening. So I was on vacation with my family in Berlin when the first one was happening. We were at like a deli, and I like had to excuse myself to like go to the bathroom and like post from like the bathroom at a Berlin deli, like the Twitter and the Instagram post for Lena's AMA. And then the second one that we did in May this year with the whole group happened at a pretty like normal hour where I was staying for lockdown. So I mean, it was in May. It was like over lockdown in the UK. As maybe not previously mentioned here, I live in the UK, but I am American. So I was in the UK. I think it was at like 8 p.m. Korean time, and so it was 12 p.m. noon here in the UK. when it started, and I don't know why I'm talking so much about just actually starting in it. So the interesting story about that GWSN AMA is that it was the first time we basically told the artist, because we really wanted to have the whole group instead of just Lena this time, because we knew that they were keen and that the company like understood the value of doing the AMAs and really liked like how it had worked last time. So two things. We even offered them like, if you want to do a video, like here are ways that you can do a video to go with your AMA. And we're like, no, we really like the text-based format and like interacting with your users in a text-based format, which is great because it makes it like kind of simpler for us in a way. But I think it is also fun when our users get a video. But one thing that we told them to try to encourage them to let all of the members do it was that we would be available to translate the answers from Korean into English. So we can't really translate the questions that they're getting from English into Korean, right? Because there's too many questions. They just kind of have to pick and choose the ones that they can understand. So we're like, we'll translate the answers from Korean to English. And by we, I mean I translated the answers from Korean to English over
It's only
like
you doing it the
100
whole time.
answers
Oh,
Oh
no.
my
from Korean to
God.
English. And
no.
What did you hunker down for that?
I mean, I was just on, and this was like a couple weeks before my final exams as well.
Oh,
my
jeez.
God.
Oh my God.
Good job.
And I literally, I think I translated maybe like 70 answers or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like lagging behind. And I'm having to use a dictionary for like some of the words and just trying to figure out what they're saying. Because my Korean isn't perfect, folks. I would say I'm like intermediate plus, like right here, right? And
Made, so don't worry.
and I'm like, oh God, I'm 10 minutes late. I'm like 30 minutes late, 40 minutes late. But it was worth it because we got them all to answer. And furthermore, we suggested that because there's 6 members of GWSN, that instead of just having one account and answering from like one account all at the same time, on one device, that they just have all of the members log into the same Reddit account from their own devices. So it was great because each of the members was on their own device answering our questions. So instead of just getting, one comment every 2 minutes, we were getting 6 comments every 2 minutes. So you can understand how it was building up for me to translate.
That sounds overwhelming.
I mean, it's good because you get more questions, but also that seems like a lot of work for you.
For one person.
So it was quite, I mean, yes, it was great having all 6 of them who were active for those promotions answer at the same time. At the same time, though, we're lucky enough, Lena, Mia, who's the Japanese member with the short hair, that is probably the most popular one internationally. And I think Minju also all answered in English. And it was just Soryong, Sokyung, and Han who were answering in Korean. So I only had to translate their answers. But it was great because like within the hour, they were able to leave like hundreds of comments, which is amazing. Which is more comments than we normally get in 1 hour for an AMA. And I think our users really, really enjoyed that experience. And I mean, we have a really good relationship with their company. So hopefully that we can just continue organizing yearly AMAs with GWSN or whenever they come back, because they're great and they're a lot of fun. And I think they enjoy talking to our users.
So Tuck, do you have any interesting stories about either the AMA themselves or just the organization? I know you mentioned one about some miscommunication.
Oh, yeah. So I did kind of hint at the story. One of the most terrifying experiences of my life in AMA organization was having to organize an AMA with representatives from JYP Entertainment. So we decided to cold email JYP when they used to have a contact form on their website back in 2018 about suggesting that we would love to have Park Jimin from 15 And, who of course is the longtime host of After School Club on Arirang TV, do an AMA because she's one of the most prominent English-speaking idols, and she was having to come back. So we're like, seems like a great opportunity. We know that she'll be able to connect easily with our fans. We won't have to worry about translation, English to Korean, Korean to English, and on on her show, she makes a lot of comments about, wanting to interact more with fans and stuff like that. So we thought it'd be a great thing to suggest. Like, it's JYP Entertainment, they speak Korean, had to write like email like saying that we really, really wanted Park Jimin to come on, because we did, in Korean, and we're like, I don't know if this is ever going to get picked up by anyone. We get an email back like maybe a week later, and we can see, because they've left the whole like email thread on it, that they've been sharing this around departments. And it's finally made it to Park Jimin's, or Jamie, like Jim and Jamie, right? Her management team. And they've emailed us back, and they're like, yeah, we're in Korean. And they're like, yeah, we're interested. Like, please tell us more. Like, give us more details. So cue me being like continuously over our entire email series with them, freaking out and not sending it out anything until I've like spell checked it with like 2 separate of my fluent Korean speaking friends. Because I'm like, I need to make sure this is okay. I need to make sure this sounds right in business Korean. I'm emailing JYP Entertainment. I don't want to jeopardize like any future AMAs that we might be doing with them. So nervous about everything, reading all the emails. And classically, everything's going well. And we get to the point where we have to announce the AMA. And normally when we're doing AMA announcements, what will happen is that we'll tell the artist to announce first from one of their social media accounts. So either from their Twitter or from their Instagram. And the reason we do this instead of just announcing the AMA to our users on Reddit is because we kind of have to like let the Reddit users know that this is legitimate, that it's real, right? So by having the artist post first on their social media account, it lets our users know that this is actually happening, because there's something officially coming from the social media account of the artist. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I sent some examples of some previous AMA announcements to Jimin's managers. And I'm like, this is how, and announcements are normally done. Could you please like make a post of like this? And we had like discussed like what time they could do it at, where it would work for us, so we could coordinate our announcements, because we want to post at the same time that they do it. Because basically, as soon as they post, we take their social media post and do it as a link post on Reddit, so that our users can be linked to their social media post, like as soon as it comes out, basically. So I'm expecting to hear from them. Yeah, we'll post at this time, and like we're ready to do it. And instead, I get an email back from them, and the first thing I notice is that there's a zip file attached to the email. I'm like, why is there a zip file attached to this email? And I open up the zip file before I even try to read the email, and it's just like 5 completely blank, like no graphics marked images of Jimin. So yeah, I get all of these images, and they're like in the email, so you want us to make an announcement, can you make the image for us? And I'm like, you want me to make an image announcement for what do you? No, you make the announcement. So I'm sitting there in my dorm room with my friend on Pixlr editor, and I'm like, what do you think JYP is gonna like?
Oh no!
Like putting text on it, being like Reddit AMA, Park Jimin, 15 and like at this time. I'm like, I'm not supposed to do this. And they're like, okay, you make the announcement, you tweet it out. So I retweeted it from our channel. This image, and they retweeted it. So you can go on 15N's channel, like you can go to 15N's official Twitter from back in the day. You can look at autumn 2018, and you can see on their official Twitter feed the image that I edited on Pixlr with my friend in my dorm room.
Goodness.
Announcing.
I feel like I need to find this now.
I'm looking for this right now.
So that was an interesting case of miscommunication.
That's
because
amazing.
I think that something I said made them think that I would do the announcement for them and also make an announcement photo. Because, I don't know, maybe they think we're not just volunteer moderators and that we have a massive like team of graphic designers behind us.
It's
we don't.
JYP. I feel like they're just like, oh no, this is how this works.
Just a graphic designer on the side.
Graphic design.
Perfect.
One of your many talents, Tuck.
Is
Yeah.
this image.
I'm happy to keep going. I don't know like how long you guys.
No. This
yeah,
isn't.
okay.
We can keep going.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to. I'm having a great time. This can be a 2-hour long episode. I hope you're enjoying the stories. I have
love
another
these
good
stories
story.
so much.
Um,
The floor is yours.
I really
what's
should
Yeah,
talk about-
what's
I
the
should-
other dope story?
I should really tell you guys about Woolham and our
Oh no.
Woolham.
Kayla, get
We
prepared.
we do have a Woolham
We are a
stand.
Woolham stand. Woolham
Okay.
We have multiple Woolham stands.
Infinite.
I love Woolham Entertainment so much because they send us the best emails. So I think it must have, and I'm saying this, right? And we've never successfully organized an AMA with any of their artists. Okay. I want to tell you all a story about one of my favorite experiences being a moderator, being one of our AMA coordinators, and just kind of, in our email account, our shared K-pop subreddit email account. So it was a bit after we had been doing the AMA videos with Hello 82, and I think someone from Woolham noticed our videos that we had been collaborating with Hello 82 on and reached out to us because we were a platform and they wanted to introduce Woolham to us. So we got an email, I think, about a year ago from someone at Woolham Entertainment who was one of their international marketing people. And it started off like, "Hi, representatives from Reddit K-pop. I am from Woolham Entertainment. I'm not sure if you're familiar with us. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you our artists. Currently, our main promoting artists are Lovelies and Golden Child. And we're very excited about the debut of our upcoming artist, Rocket Punch." So it had to be right before Rocket Punch debut. That last August. So I guess it was a bit over a year ago. Anyways, the email was phrased as if we had no idea who Woolham Entertainment was
That's
and had never
amazing.
heard of Lovelies or Golden Child before.
Cool.
And they're also like, "We also have another artist, Infinite, but they're currently not doing active promotions." I'm like,
I've never heard of
glad to know.
Never heard of
Infinite
it.
Never
before.
heard of
Never heard
Infinite,
of them.
never heard of
Were they?
Lovelies
Great to
and Golden
know.
Child.
They totally did
And,
not influence my.
I'm like, I appreciate how polite you are being with this email, assuming that we have never heard of your amazing artists. But
I've
you're
heard of
Woolham
them before.
Entertainment. You're emailing
You're
us
Woolham
what's
Entertainment.
going on, and of course we know who you are. So honored that you're emailing us, basically. And it came along with the email. We got introduction profiles to both Lovelies and Golden Child. So they basically sent their CVs, and these
Oh
these
my
amazing
goodness.
Oh my
photo
God.
booklets.
That's
that we have.
amazing.
Really?
That,
That's nice.
That's insane.
They list
awesome.
every TV appearance that all
What?
of their
Oh my God.
That's so many.
each of the Lovelies members and each of the Golden Child members had up to that point.
How many pages is that?
It's there's one page for each member, and then
Oh, wow.
some group
Oh
pages.
my God.
So each of them are the Lovelies one is maybe 10 pages.
Oh,
And there's photos and the text, and it's great. But the funny thing is, because each member has a page, you can see which members they promote more to TV shows and which ones they promote less to TV shows. Anyways, so they were like, and we're like, "That's great. We would love to organize an AMA with you. Rocket Punch is debuting. Do you think they could do an AMA with us?" And they come back to us and they're like, "Thank you." They're so polite in all of their emails. It's so nice. And they're like, "We don't think Rocket Punch is ready for an AMA." And then every time we email them suggesting to do an AMA, and they're like, "Probably not this time." And they're like, "Here's this promotional video for you, so you know more about what they're doing." I'm like, "Okay, but can we promote them through an AMA? Can they come talk to our users?" And they're like, "Not this time."
That's
"You're
so funny.
Nice." And to this day, we're still on their email list. So as soon as they announce a comeback, today, because has Golden Child publicly announced their comeback? Was that announced
Yeah,
today?
they have.
So
Yes.
as soon as they publicly announce their comeback, they send us an email. I can
Oh my
read the
God.
one from today. So we got an email today. "News: Golden Child is coming back. Get
Oh my
excited. Watch the
goodness.
teaser here." So we're
Oh
on
my
their
God.
promotional mailing list.
This sounds exact. This is what I expect from Woolham.
This is just
point.
like
This is
on
this
brand
makes
for Woolham
perfect sense.
Entertainment.
This
I will
makes
I will
perfect
quote
sense.
the email that I received to you today. Immediately when immediately when it came out. "Hello. Exclamation point. I'm Jinhee. Jinhee is not the original person we were emailing, but I think she's the new international business person who's been assigned to contact us. Today, I want to tell you an issue. Golden Child will come back on October 7th.
What? This is amazing.
Here is comeback spoiler link, and then the link to the YouTube video. Hope you keep watching on it. Also, I'll keep you updated on this! Exclamation point.
Oh my god.
Look forward to it and all the best. Thanks, Jinhee.
I love the enthusiasm.
I love this.
Hello!
They have the
Exclamation
most
point.
enthusiasm. They always email us whenever, and we got emails as soon as Lovely dropped their teasers. We get emails when Lovely's. We get more emails from Woolen nowadays than probably anyone else because they let us know whenever their artists are doing it. I really appreciated it. I'm like, okay, but Jinhee, AMA. What about an AMA though?
Nope.
Please?
Nah.
Nope.
Can't do that.
That's not happening.
Oh, that's so funny. They sound nice.
They
It
sound
sounds
very
so-
sweet.
You sound
That's-
so nice.
I
That
told
sounds
myself
exactly
at
like
the
I
beginning of this
expect Woolham
I
management.
told myself, look, Lovely's just had a comeback. Golden Child's having a comeback. I'm gonna try to organize a call with her because I think if I call her and talk to her about AMAs, maybe we'll get something to
Maybe.
We're
happen.
also debuting a new group, so
Yeah, we are gonna-
prime time for Wolf Entertainment.
Yeah, we are getting dripping.
dripping.
Yeah.
Tripping is a thing
Name.
that's
What a
happening.
name.
We love Woolham. I think Woolham loves us.
You don't know.
That's
This is a
what I'd
question
like
mark
to think.
still. There's a small question mark at the end of that, but yes, we think we
Maybe.
do it.
Maybe, but yeah, I love emailing Woolham.
It sounds like
They're
so
great.
much fun. So, Tug, is there a dream AMA for you? Like one that you would just kill to have?
I mean, what else can I say besides a G-Friend AMA? I so
Okay.
desperately want a G-Friend AMA. I mean, my dream AMA goes back and forth between a G-Friend AMA because G-Friend is my favorite group and I want to pick the members' brains about so many things. Which is what we do in an AMA, ask questions and hopefully get answers. And then of course a Luna AMA because Luna's one of my absolute favorite groups and the subreddit loves Luna. So in our census,
the internet.
Luna was voted
Luna is just
the fifth most popular
the internet's
group
girls.
on our K-pop.
Oh, people would explode on Reddit. If that
yeah.
ever happened, it would be
Last
freaking
year.
crazy.
So if a Luna AMA ever happens, that would be amazing. And I have some contacts who I know have worked with Luna in the past. And what I hear is that their management is really picky about the opportunities that they let kind of Luna do. They want to make sure that basically that Luna is only going on the best platforms.
Mhm.
And or really good platforms, and it's really hard to get them to go on a smaller platform unless you have quite a good connection. Yeah, so we're trying, and I don't think, and we've tried to email them many times, but I think that if we're ever going to get Luna, it's going to have to be through a connection. So if any of you are listening to this podcast,
Have a connection.
and you have a
Any of
connection to
our-
Luna's management team,
Please get
just
to do an
know
AMA.
that our site, our K-pop, which has millions of unique visitors every month, English language visitors, if you want to access the North American and European, especially K-pop markets, K-pop fan markets, please come do an AMA on our K-pop. We'd be so happy to have them and as accommodating as we could possibly be.
And also, thank you, Tuck, for saying that on our podcast. The best way to outreach the most people as possible.
Yeah, the best way to
Yes.
reach the Korean entertainment industry execs.
You know what? You never
These
know.
loud
You
K-pop
never know.
podcasts.
You never know who's
Yeah, you
listening. You never know.
Y'all, you never know.
Okay.
All right.
On a more serious note, sort of away from the AMA part of art K-pop, you've sort of talked about the use of mega threads in order to follow really important news stories and everything. If you want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. So when the Burning Sun scandal was happening, I can't take any credit for it. So I wasn't really involved in putting together the mega threads that we did have, but we recognized it as a really important news story that was ongoing in Korea. We recognized that there was a massive interest also from Western K-pop fans to kind of try to understand what was going on. So a team of our moderators did amazing work collating basically all of the news stories that were coming out into over 30 mega threads, which every few months or so we still publish what we call a burning sun. Plus the Molka, so we call them burning Molka mega threads. And we have over 30 of them. And we're still like, I think burning Molka like 35, I think, is being collated now in one of our Discord channels that we have in our mod Discord. So we're still updating on it. But when it was going on, it was kind of crazy. And we do mega threads for other events, but that's the one kind of news story that we had successive massive mega threads coming out like every 3 days and 4 days. And one of the most kind of not shocking but really interesting things to hear was that professional journalists were using our mega thread that we were putting together, that our moderators were putting together in their free time and spending so much time and energy and work collating. We're using those mega threads to help weave together the stories that they were publishing for Western audiences, covering what I think was a really important story to cover, especially in a critical lens, and kind of using the mega threads that we were publishing to understand the bigger picture. So to just kind of see how the work that the K-pop moderators do really does have quite a broad-reaching impact on the broader kind of Western K-pop fandom was really like fascinating to learn about, and to get to talk to journalists who were like, yeah, I totally used the mega threads when I was trying to cover it, and learn more and just keep track of what was going on. Because if you were on the K-pop internet, last I guess it was two winters ago, right? Kind of started off in like January,
This
February
year feels like
2019.
it was 10 years.
So much has happened between then and now.
Yeah, so it kind of kicked off in the beginning of 2019, and we just had so many successive mega threads, and so much work was put in. I was always more focused on trying to organize AMAs and stuff like that, but a lot of our moderators did really amazing kind of work and research to get all that together. And mega threads we normally have mega threads on our K-pop whenever there is kind of a big news story or event. But just really hearing about how those are used. I think you guys have said that you even if you're not a huge Reddit user, you've gone through the mega threads and stuff like that. But it's definitely something that also, when it was happening, we noticed a kind of an uptick in our traffic stat when the big stories were coming out, just because people we assumed were coming to read our mega threads. So that was definitely a big period of time in the history of our K-pop.
Yeah, I think it's just a testament to how big, not just Reddit, but like, how much the internet is just used as like a news aggregator at this point, specifically Reddit, because, just the specificity you can get with, subreddits and specific like topics, and then specific mega threads. I know a lot of communities have, like, especially in recent events, the biggest one that I've seen is like the Super Smash Brothers community had the big mega thread when their whole Twitter debacle went down. And then, there's like, I think definitely, I know a lot of journalists used that mega thread to talk about what was going on in their community. And it's just like the influence of, people who just put in the work to, like, just sift through, how many garbage things to be like, is this true? Is this not true? We'll put it in a mega thread and people can find out. And so it's definitely just here we have everything, and this is just a list in a graph of everything that exists, and you can just see it all, and there's links to everything. And then there's 700,000 comments underneath it of people just being like, comments and opinions about it. And it's just like all in just one place. It's just crazy.
That's honestly one of my favorite things about Reddit in general, like being like that casual user. just like reading like the discussions, but also just like really admiring a lot of like the work, certain like mods, but also just certain people will go to just collect as much information as they can to like help paint as close, hopefully as close of an accurate story about what the heck is going on, like whatever the mega thread is for, as good as possible. And yeah, honestly, the whole Burning Mokta mega threads, I was like so impressed with like not I was impressed in a way like with how well the K-pop subreddit mods like executed all that, but also just like how they were able to get so much information. And the fact that there was so much information too was insane in of itself. With everything that went down with that, but it was just like a testament to like, dang, these guys got their even if maybe it didn't seem like they got their stuff together, that they really got their stuff together to like organize all this information. I was like mega impressed, and it was like helpful for me to follow everything that was going on because I was paying attention to that whole news cycle for a real long time. I hats off to all the the K-pop subreddit mods that were involved with that. I don't know if you guys do end up watching this, but y'all did a fantastic job.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Like organizing that information. Honestly, I appreciate it.
So you had mentioned earlier that you had done a couple of different panels at KCON and anything, and I know that you have met a couple of K-pop artists there as well. So if there's anything sort of behind the scenes or just your experience being a KCON panelist that you want to talk about.
I mean, before we started recording this, there was the question of how I met Twice, which I actually didn't meet at KCON. I didn't meet them at KCON. So I'm happy to talk about who I met at KCON and also how I met Twice. Which would you like me to go through first?
Let's do KCON first,
and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Okay, we can build up to Twice. So the first year that I went to KCON in 2018, because I had started organizing the AMAs, and because I knew that there was, that our K-pop was quite ubiquitous, I would say, within the broader Western K-pop fan community. Lots of KCON attendees likely used our K-pop, knew what our K-pop was, because I rarely do I meet a K-pop fan who's never like once set foot on our site. Basically, I don't know if that sounds like quite pretentious, or like presumptuous. But yeah, I feel like our K-pop was quite well known. So kind of in the lead up to KCON that year, after I'd become a moderator, I suggested that we might as well email the KCON team and see if they would be interested in having us talk on a panel. And yeah, so I ended up getting to go to KCON New York as a special guest that year, in 2018, which is the only one that I could go to. I couldn't make it to KCON LA. And it was just a really crazy experience, I think, as my first KCON experience. I'd never been to KCON before. I just like known about it and seen vlogs and stuff like that. And my first experience, I was like, in the green room, backstage, for having the experience that a lot of the influencers get to have, which was just really incredible. And I got to meet so many people through KCON. At that first KCON, I think the only idols that I met kind of backstage, besides I met a lot of YouTubers. That's who I think the majority of the guests are. So I know a lot of prominent YouTubers through KCON and through the panels that I've done at KCON, because they're often doing panels at the same time. But I did meet Grace, so Crazy Grace, who is a rapper in the Korean K-pop industry. I don't know if you call her K-hip-hop artist, but she was there, and she was one person that I did meet backstage, which was quite cool. And I had also met Alex Reed, classically from
yeah.
So it was crazy, like getting to meet these, like her, who I'd seen like in YouTube videos and read lots of news articles about, getting to meet her. And then of course, like some of the best parts about it were getting to meet YouTubers, a lot of YouTubers. The first people that I met because we were like the earliest people in the green room, the first people to show up. Were, besides myself, were Your Sweet Guys. I don't know if you're familiar with the YouTube channel Your Sweet Guys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're the nicest, most lovely, most passionate K-pop fans out there. They're so funny. They deemed me, like, at the second I stepped in, I was like, you guys are so cool. And they're like, that's cool, Tucker. You can be our sweet girl. And I was like, great. So that's the nickname for me. And I got to hang out with them a lot during my first KCON, which is really great. So then going into my second and third experience at KCON, which were KCON New York and KCON LA in summer 2019, where I did 3 panels at each of them. So really ramping up kind of what I had done in the previous year. So I basically started reaching out to people who I had met at previous KCONs, at the previous KCON I had been to, and people who I'd worked with online to organize some panels. So my first year, the only panel I did was called Behind the Scenes of Online K-pop Communities, and I did that with Jenny Jha, who worked for many years for Soompi, and kind of looked more at the fan community side on the Soompi website. So it's kind of like the perspective from our K-pop, and then also the perspective from, like an established news website. And we did that panel last summer with a representative from, she no longer works for Soompi, but we also did it with a representative who was working from Amino last summer, which was really cool. So to talk about, like, Amino, Soompi, and Reddit all at the same time. And then I did it at LA with just Jenny again. And then I organized, because I had gotten to know a lot of journalists, I guess, at the previous KCON, and also kind of throughout the year, because the journalists are, posting the news articles that end up on our site, and it's just like a constant back and forth. And sometimes they contact us about an article or how an article is posted, or like the caption, or like wanting to know whether or not something should be posted, stuff like that. So I'd gotten to know quite a number of journalists, and I decided that because we kind of act as like the news aggregator, that it would be quite fun if I could moderate a panel with the journalists. So I ended up planning a panel called Breaking News in K-pop. And breaking news was meant to have the double entendre of both, as in breaking news, like news stories, but also the act of breaking news, like being a journalist and breaking the news to the world, right? Mm-hmm. So I ended up moderating that panel and had Jeff Benjamin on it, and Tamar Herman, and some other quite prominent K-pop journalists, like Western K-pop journalists, and also had, I don't know if you guys know Balloon Wanted, a Twitter user who does
yes.
Korean English translations. They have tens of thousands of followers, and they're one of the biggest like news translation accounts. So kind of hitting it at it from all angles. So we talked a lot about scandals in K-pop and stuff like that, and how those news stories are handled by the Western media, and how we handle the news stories on our K-pop. But I was mostly acting as a moderator, so I asked most of the questions. And that was a really like fun panel, and quite a popular panel last summer as well. Because I think a lot of people at KCON are interested in the idea of like becoming a K-pop journalist. So I'm not a K-pop journalist myself. I sometimes joke that I'm a semi-professional K-pop journalist because I moderate the panels and I organize interviews, though I don't actually do the interviewing. And of course, it's not my job. I'm just a volunteer. But that was quite a fun panel to do. And then my favorite panel was basically, so a good friend of mine who I had met at KCON New York in 2018, who is my friend that I mentioned that worked for Hello 82, who had been working for Hello 82 and had worked for a number of K-pop companies. I think they used to work for Mnet, like Mnet in America, and has a lot of crazy stories about interacting with K-pop entertainment companies. And also myself, because I had a lot of fun interactions with K-pop entertainment companies, as I've expressed to you all here. thought that it would be quite fun to kind of plan a panel. We called it Idol Connection. And the idea was that we would tell stories and then the audience would have to guess who the story was about.
Ooh.
So I actually, on that panel, I told a lot of the stories that I've told you guys here, the ones that I had at that time and some other ones. And then we would like take turns telling stories and then the audience would have to guess. I got to do it with my friend in LA, but they were double booked actually by KCON for the one in New York. So the organizers of KCON New York suggested that Courtney, who was on the behind the scenes of online K-pop communities panel with me, who worked for Amino, do the panel with me, and who also used to work for Soompi. So we had plenty of stories for the New York panel as well, where both Courtney and I got to talk about our stories, basically describing interactions with idols and also more often than not with the different entertainment companies, and have people play a fun guessing game where they got to guess what idol or entertainment company we were talking about. If you guys want, I can tell you the best story that I have.
Oh,
Please.
From that.
Yes,
Just
indeed.
drop
And
that
then-
and not
For
and
tell
then I think you
more,
guys-
senor.
I think you guys are gonna have to guess though.
Oh,
Okay.
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 All right, we'll play.
Woo.
We'll play along, bro.
You might know I don't know if you're gonna know the answer. Okay, so let me see if I can pull this out of my Idol Connection brain. How did I tell the story? I definitely wrote an outline, but I'm not going to take the time to find that outline right now. Like for the panel, but the story basically goes. So my friend, the one who worked for Hello 82, was actually quite involved with this. But let's see, how did it start? Okay, so here's how the story starts. So I'm emailing this Idol's manager. This is someone who I want to organize an AMA with them. I think they would be a really good candidate for doing an AMA. And I hadn't heard anything back from them after like a couple initial emails for a couple days. I think it had actually been about a week. And I'm sitting down for dinner with some friends in a Nando's. I sit down in Nando's with a big group of my friends, like 10 friends, and I open, and this is right when in the first year that I've been organizing, so I really hadn't had that many interactions with idols or entertainment companies by this time. And I decided to open Kakao Talk for some reason. I don't know what came over me. I don't open Kakao Talk that often. And in my Kakao Talk from like a couple hours ago, I have Kakao messages sitting in my inbox from the idol who I had been trying to organize the AMA with. And I'm like, holy crap, there's a K-pop idol in my DMs messaging me. And I open the messages and it's like, hey Tucker, sorry, I had to get your number from so-and-so, my friend who worked for Hello 82. Like, I hope you don't mind me texting you here. I thought it would be easier. Like my manager is busy with other stuff right now and I just want to organize with you quickly. And I'm like, wait, so you asked someone for my number? Like, wait, you K-pop idol asking your friend for my number? I don't understand what's going on here. What? So I started freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, I've opened it in Kakao Talk. They've seen that I opened the messages. I have to respond quickly because I don't want to leave them on red. Like, what's going on?
I don't want to leave a K-pop idol on red.
I don't want to leave a
Don't
K-pop
leave him hanging.
I've never had this.
Can't do that.
This is
I
the
can't do
most
that.
unique problem I've ever had.
I'm with 10 friends, clearly before COVID times. This is 2018. I stand up. I'm like, guys, I need a second. I need to I get up.
We need help.
I
We need help.
I just
I need a
stand
ventilator.
classically, I think by the door of a bathroom. I think that's where I go when I need to deal with K-pop things.
Makes sense.
As previously discussed. And I'm like, yes, thank you for contacting me.
Of course, yes,
Um,
definitely.
So yeah, the be all end all of the story is who do you think? And we ended up
Did the
organizing
AMA
an
go
AMA, and it
through?
was the AMA went through, and
Oh, good.
Ooh.
I'll give you a
All
clue.
right.
That person has since done multiple AMAs on our K-pop since I've been organizing
Oh.
them.
Is it a soloist?
Do they speak English?
Yeah, they speak
This
English.
is all in English.
Okay.
This is all in English.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, that was my story. It was the first time I ever
Let's go through the AMA list.
Who do I
to a
think
K-pop
would
idol.
just decided to not go through their manager and just DM you about it?
Personally, it's just like, hey, what's up? I just
What's
thought,
up?
it'd be easier if I just DM'd you personally. Why don't I
Who's
just
an
do that?
insane
Call it
person?
out.
Oh, I know.
I'm
I
gonna
think
go
I
with my
know.
gut
I think I
instinct.
know. I think I know.
think I
I'm gonna
know.
say it.
Wait,
I'm
hold
gonna
on.
say it.
Before
Okay.
you say it, I will read the actual first messages.
You still
You
have
found
them?
them?
Well, yeah, I mean they're on my phone.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Do I have the ones before, or have they been deleted because I have a new phone? Oh, hi Tucker, nice to meet you. It's blank. I got your cacao ID through. Yeah, so
I think I know who this is.
that was the introduction that they had to ask for. My cacao ID from a friend.
All right.
So
Can I guess first? I'm gonna
Yeah.
say it's Kevin Wu.
It is-
That's
That's
yeah,
what I
seems-
was
that's
gonna
what I was
guess.
gonna say.
Kevin Wu.
Kevin
This sounds like a
seems
Kevin
that
Wu story.
That
insane.
sounds like a Kevin.
This sounds like a Kevin Wu story. Are we
this is
right?
a Kevin Wu story. You're right.
Yes.
Yes.
That
sounds
okay.
like a Kevin
Once
Wu
I saw,
story.
I was looking through. I
Holy-
saw Kevin and was like, Kevin's kind of crazy. Then I saw Kevin twice, and I was like,
This is
Kevin
Kevin.
is that
this is
crazy.
Kevin. Kevin would do that, and that's why I love him.
Kevin is great. Kevin is
I love
so
Kevin.
nice.
I love Kevin,
Kevin
so
seems
much.
like a
him.
sweetheart.
Kevin is so nice. Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
that is amazing. I think I love that
That's my
story the most.
favorite story. I think I've ever heard.
Yes.
That's so
OG group
beautiful.
right there. Right, he's from UKIS, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he was from
Yeah.
UKIS.
Yeah. He's OG
Was he-
group right there. That's
He's
like
an OG.
Yeah, I kept asking Kevin. I'm going through the messages. And I'm like, are you sure you want me to keep? I said, would you like me to text here, or should I contact you back with the information through email? He's like, cacao is more convenient for me. Smiley face.
Okay.
I love this.
Anyway,
You just
so
said
much.
everything
I do
up
want
with
to
no
I do want to
management.
clarify for your podcast viewers. I did ask Kevin if it was okay with him for me to tell the story
Okay.
at KCON and stuff like
Okay.
that. So he did sign off on it as an appropriate story that I could tell.
I imagine
Because
he
of course
just
I want to
doesn't-
respect the privacy of
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
the artist and stuff like that.
course.
So that is something
In
that
my head,
has
Kevin
only
thinks
I can
that's
tell.
completely normal and has no problem with it. He's just like, yeah, I just, it was just easier.
That's
so I
just easier. It's
I'm just-
more
Let me just
convenient.
DM
Gonna
them
slide
personally.
into the DMs of the arcade pop man.
Yeah, in my head, he sees that as completely fine and doesn't have a problem with it, and I think that makes it better.
Yeah, infinitely better.
There's I finally met Kevin in person at KCON LA last year, and we were chatting a bit. We got to hang out a bit at the first night of KCON LA in a really dark concert room. So there's a photo of Kevin and I, but it's super blurry and super dark. And I'm wearing one of my other friends' rainbow jackets in the photo. We also got Kevin to post memes on our K-pop for April Fool's Day when we first
Oh,
did the
that's
April
I
Fool's
love
Day.
that
That's so
so
beautiful.
much.
But his memes weren't that popular.
Oh no!
Were they not good enough? You need better memes.
You win some, you
I don't
lose
think
some.
they were super into them, and I don't think
Aw.
I think they also didn't realize that it was him posting the memes. I mean, they were from his official account on Reddit, but
Yeah,
But
I don't
still,
really
it
still
check
also
username.
kind of looks.
you're not
that-
checking to see what the account is. When
Yeah,
you're posting
on
it.
Reddit, you
Yeah,
don't really
yeah.
see
But I
usernames.
thought it
as
would have
much,
been a quite
so-
funny thing for Kevin to do. So it's
that
like,
sounds amazing.
Kevin, for April Fool's Day, we're letting people post memes. Do you want to post memes? I've really gone really quite roundabout because you asked me which artists have I met at KCON, right?
Mhm.
So that same night, actually, at KCON LA, that I met Kevin finally in person for the first time. I don't know if you're going to include the whole story about me meeting Kevin and there being a
Yeah,
very blurry
yes, we
photo.
are.
Yes.
But so the same night that I met KCON, that I was at KCON and I met Kevin, which was KCON Rookies. So that was the first night. AB6 performed.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And I was in they have a VIP section. They had at most of the they always have it at like the first night concert, so like not the big stadium concerts,
Mm-hmm.
but like at the KCON Rookies ones, or like the K Club KCON night, right? So I was in the VIP section with like all of the other like panel guests. And there's a great cast of characters who are panel guests every year because it's not just YouTubers; it's like a lot of people like me who aren't famous at all in any way, who just are regular panelists and have panels that they come to do at KCON. So I'm milling around, right? So I'm milling around at the VIP section at KCON Rookies, and I just went up, talking to people. People are introducing themselves to each other, and I decided to go up and introduce myself to this woman who is standing there, kind of at the back, just because I'm being friendly, like I am. And it ended up being the wife of Reimer, who's the CEO of Brand New Music.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness.
And Reimer was like also there, and I met him tangentially, but I mostly talked to his wife. And I was talking to her, and we were talking. She's like, "What do you think about AB6?" And like picking her brain to like figure out what you're thinking about AB6. And Jeff Benjamin came over, and Jeff and I were talking to her for quite a while. And then when the concert was over, she's like, "Do you guys want to come backstage and meet the boys?" Basically.
Oh my god.
So Jeff and I went backstage, and Jeff is like, "I'm Jeff." Like, I guess he had interviewed them previously, and they were like, "Hi, Jeff." And I'm like, I introduced myself in Korean, right? Because that's what that's kind of my USP, because almost none of the Western journals actually speak Korean.
Right.
But I speak Korean. So like when I met Twice, which is a story that I can get to,
Yes, please.
I was there backstage with like 3 other journalists, and they're all speaking in English. And I'm like, I just lead with Korean. So I led with Korean, and I got to chat very briefly to AB6 after the concert. I think they were really tired, to be honest. But
That makes sense.
they were really friendly and happy to pose for a selfie, which was nice. And it's on my Instagram. I don't know if you guys have seen that post before.
Maybe. I think
Oh,
so.
yeah.
I think so. When we followed you on Instagram.
One thing, so I think I didn't really get to meet them. But at KCON LA, I was walking around backstage, like backstage behind, like in the main exhibition hall with some of my other friends who are also panelists. And to be very honest, it was because we knew that Luna had their fan side event coming up. We wanted to see if we could spy them backstage coming out. And we did, and we watched them. We were like standing like 10 feet away from them. And we watched Luna walk out to their fan side event.
Such an orbit.
I mean, I did the same thing when I saw SF9 run in there. So I was just kind of standing there.
And like that famous video clip, Luna video clip, with like Kim Lip seeing the mom meme at KCON, and someone's like quoting the mom meme, and she's like, no, not the mom meme.
She's like, I'm cursed.
Literally, we were standing like, that's the event where we were standing like right behind the curtains,
Oh
just
my
kind of wandering
God.
around, milling around backstage, because we knew that Luna was about to pop up there. So they
Oh my
popped up
God.
there, and that's like 10 minutes before the classic mom meme, Luna meme.
Oh,
was
that poor soul. She was so tortured by it.
Who else have actually met? I met Esna. So Esna is someone else who I had organized an AMA with separately through connections. And yeah, I got to meet Esna eventually at KCON last summer, which was really great. And I'm a fan of a lot of her music. And she has such a great voice. So that was another idol that I got to meet. If you guys are unfamiliar with Esna, she is really famous for collaborating with Mamamoo on one of their early tracks. But she's a solo artist.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Okay. I think I know.
Who else have I met? I've met a lot of, not a lot, but I think I've maybe started to lose track of like soloists, or like just because there's a lot of people who are KCON guests who are arguably K-pop idols, arguably not K-pop idols. I
Mhm.
like depends on what you consider. Like I know all the from Trophy Cat, which is like they're like, are they idols? I don't like Aura and Friday. Like they're like DJs, and I guess Aura is an idol. Aura is super nice. So I met soloists and stuff like that, but a lot of people who are not necessarily as popular in the West who do end up like coming as K-pop artists. Oh, I forgot I forgot a great story. Okay, so at KCON New York, if any of you at KCON New York last year?
No, I
No.
couldn't go.
No.
Okay,
Nah,
so
unfortunately.
one of the headline guests of KCON New York last year was Jong-up from BAP.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so we decided that it would be a great idea to organize an AMA with Jong-up and June and Min, who the three of them, so June Korean, Jong-up,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Min, who was the
Mhm.
producer, were putting out songs together at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we organized an AMA with them, and I was like, you know what's a great idea? We're going to do the AMA at KCON in between like the
Oh, no.
panels.
Oh no.
Oh
That
no.
seems like not enough time.
On the
That seems like hell.
well, because the panels end at like the panel closes at like 5, right? And then they give time
Mhm.
for everyone to like go get dinner or whatever at KCON New York because the concert doesn't start till 7 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think we scheduled the AMA for 6 p.m., like 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. So we're like, we're gonna go get it set up, and they wanted to film it, and I was like, I will go there and help you guys get it set up on your computer, and help you film it, right? And we're trying to figure out how to film it, and we decided that the best way to film it is to Instagram Live it, right?
Oh.
So my other friend in the room, the one who had the connection with Jong-up, June, and Min, and she's like reading off the questions to them so they can like sit together on the bed in their hotel room. While I sit there for an hour with my elbow on a chair and my hand holding a phone, like insta-living their
Oh my
entire
God.
AMA.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
That's
That's amazing.
So I was the
Tripod.
cameraman.
the
I mean,
tripod.
you're probably like, so if someone's listening to this, they're probably like, how do you lose track? I'm like, this is how I lose track because I forget stories like this where I'm like
The tripod.
being the
for-
tripod for Jong-up's AMA, and June and Min during KCON New York in like the 2 hours between. So like the panels ended for the day. We went to their hotel room. We're all sitting in their hotel room, like one of their hotel rooms. I'm sitting on like the desk chair with my elbow,
Just
like perched, and my arm is like dying after like holding up the phone because like there's lots of fans that are like asking questions. People are asking questions, and we even got them to answer some of the questions that were coming on the Insta Live, like for all the dear Insta Live viewers, and we were like desperately trying to make sure that it was recording the screen, and it wasn't. So we I think we lost the video. But I mean, it was still good, like to have that as a live at the time when it happened. And the funny thing about KCON New York last year is people kept talking to me like, oh, our K-pop, you guys are having that live event with Jong-up like later because people knew that the AMA was happening. So that's another person who's like
That's
definitely really been in the industry that I've met. Not a lot of K-pop stars are really panelists, right? So they're normally there to perform, and the panelists don't have any generally substantial interaction with performers unless they're being asked to interview them. So sometimes the panelists will be asked to be the interviewers for them. And I never got asked to do that. One time they asked me to promote the T-shirt on my Instagram because my 1,500 followers on Instagram were good enough for KCON to promote their T-shirt on. But that's
Nice.
the most I've ever
Nice.
been really called on from KCON to promote their content.
Sam, look at you.
So I guess the last story that you guys have asked me to tell is how I met Twice. So basically, because last summer at KCON, I was doing the panel Breaking News in K-pop with a bunch of journalists, right? So I spent a lot of time talking to journalists, and a lot of the journalists actually live in New York City. And I happened to be doing an internship in New York City at the time, nothing to do with the K-pop industry. I was just doing an internship in New York City last summer, so I was back in the States. And I was talking to Jeff quite a bit, who I know quite well. And we kept saying that we had to meet up, we had to like get dinner or something after like both of us were working one day. So we were like planning on getting dinner, like finally got to the week that we're planning on getting dinner, and like the week before we were meant to get dinner, Jeff texted me. He's like, Tucker, I know this is quite last minute, but are you available on Sunday for a Twice concert? Like Twice Lights in Newark. And I knew that the concert was happening. I didn't have tickets to go or anything like that. He's like, yeah, my plus one canceled on me. Would you want to do that instead of dinner? And I'm like, sure, I'll do that. Sounds great. And I had no expectations. I thought I was just going to the concert like to be Jeff's plus one because he gets tickets, because he was going to write up a review of the concert probably. And because he gets invited to these things by concert promoters and stuff like that as quite a prominent K-pop journalist. I had no expectation of meeting Twice, but when this started, right? And I'll give you some highlights of the concert. It was an amazing concert. I was dying for them to play my favorite, unironically favorite Twice song, which is BDZ, because I think it's like the catchiest thing in the world. Are you guys familiar with BDZ?
I know that song.
Yeah.
Because like a bulldozer, like a tank, like a soldier.
Like a soldier.
Like a tank, like a.
And they
rhyme.
did BDZ.
Again,
they played
it's
BDZ.
not
And I was like, my expectation was like, I will be happy if Twice performs BDZ. Because I didn't have any expectation for them to do it, because it's one of their Japanese singles. But they performed the Korean version of BDZ at Twice Lights in New York. And I was so happy.
Wow.
And then and we had really, really good seats as well. We were like amazing seats right in the center. It was like seated seats, right? And at the Prudential Center in Newark, which is like where KCON New York had happened in 2018, not in 2019.
Yeah, they just switched. They just moved.
And it was like, it was a great concert. I felt like kind of naked because I didn't have a Twice light stick, and like nearly everyone there had a Twice light stick. And this was when Mina was on hiatus, so there was a lot of really touching tributes to Mina during the concert as well. Everyone turning their light sticks the Mina color and stuff like that. Anyways, at the end of it, people are started like filtering out, and this Korean guy in a suit comes up to like kind of like signal, like points at Jeff from like a distance. He's like gives him like the wait signal, like finger up. And people are filtering out, and then like Jeff and I go over to like talk to this guy, and he's like, so like, do you want to come like backstage, like to say hi? And we're like, yes, we would like that. There were also some other journalists there, and we're kind of just all waiting and excited. And there's different groups of people there who went in and talked to Twice. And I was with, basically it was me and 3 other journalists. It was really 2 journalists and 2 plus ones. I was one of the plus ones, and then actually the other journalist had brought another journalist as a plus one. So it was me and 3 journalists. And we were like the last group to go in and say hi to Twice, and they had been greeting people. And we basically got actually a really decent amount of time to just chat with them and take selfies with them. I think we were probably in with them, like the 4 of us and Twice, for about 5 minutes, which I consider a pretty decent amount of time if you've ever been to like a fan signing. And all the journalists like spoke to them in English, are like, congratulations, great concert, like that's really exciting. And then I like go in, I'm like, congratulations and great concert, but in Korean, because I'm too stunned to say anything else, and I don't remember like most of what I said. And we all got to take turns taking photos with Twice as well. And I needed to, if you look at my photo versus Jeff's photo that was posted on the same night, so this was like end of July 2019, on both of our Instagrams, you can see that Jeff has much more experience taking photos with K-pop idols than I do. Because Jeff, he'll I don't know how to describe it. He put one hand forward and one hand back and go and then he encourages everyone else to do the same. And everyone's super animated. Whereas in my photo with Twice, I'm just smiling and I did a peace sign and they're all smiling and doing peace signs. Because I think that it really depends on who's the person posing with them, and they kind of for each of the photos that they had taken that night, and most of them are on social media, whoever was posing with them, they kind of just emulated what the pose was that the person was doing and the energy level. But I was just really happy to be there, and it was super cool, super nice, and shorter than I expected, I would say. I'm not a super tall guy. I'm about 178 centimeters. I'm assuming you guys speak centimeters in the context of K-pop because that's generally what things are listed as.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm standing next to Judy in the photo, so you can see the height comparison. And I'm obviously not. I wasn't wearing heels. They weren't wearing heels. There's no heel action going on.
You're in nice white sneakers. I'm those are so pristine.
Yeah. They're wearing lovely, nice white sneakers. There's a Pepsi vending machine on the left.
Across that side.
And
two random people in the background.
You can see that's Jeff actually standing on the right.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? The difference between Jeff's picture and my picture, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what? You look like an adorable little schoolboy.
Aww.
That's
fun, and that's
No, it's a
I'm serving you.
You look like you're ready.
I'm serving you that schoolboy fantasy.
Yep.
No, it's perfect.
I love it.
And it was just a very kind of shocking time because I didn't really have any expectation, and it was just they were so nice, and I think amused by me. I think it was probably quite entertaining in that they don't get to speak to many journalists or people who are introduced to them as journalists, because that's how we were basically introduced, who speak Korean well enough to actually hold a conversation. So it was really glad I got to chat with them, even though it was short. But to be honest, I can't really tell you what we talked about because I was so overwhelmed by the whole thing.
Remember.
It was sensory overload. I know I was there. I know I was chatting with them, but it is mostly a blur. But yeah, that was a good time.
That's fine.
Twice are definitely the most prominent idols that I've met, and it was totally just a random 2 days beforehand coincidence. And I think some of my friends think that I must have amazing connections and plan out all of these meetings well in advance. And most of the time, I've told you guys with meeting AB6 and meeting Twice backstage, they're both kind of random situations. Jeff was there for both of them, strangely enough. But for unrelated reasons.
That's your connection.
That's the connection. The connection.
Is Jeff.
But of course, most of the other idols that I talked about meeting, Jeff wasn't in the picture. So it is just random times with random people. And yeah. So I hope you all have enjoyed picking my brain as to how our K-pop
This is very fun.
This is so
Fantastic. Are you kidding? This is
I love
great.
this.
This was the best.
I'm glad I convinced you to let me on your podcast. I'm a big
There was
fan
very
of
little
everyone
convincing needed.
in the knee slapping Kpop
There was
podcast.
no
we were
need.
surprised
It's
you
you,
said
Tuck.
yes.
You.
We
Yeah,
were
and expressed
And then
interest,
you-
and we're like, do you seriously want to be on the podcast? Because
we asked
we
you
would
if
love
you
to have you
seriously
here.
wanted
I was-
it. We thought you
I
were
was
kidding.
shocked.
Because we were like, we don't have clout.
I
think you could get on a bigger pod. Doug,
You could get
I
on
think
a much bigger podcast.
You could get on a much bigger. We are.
I mean, I have been
we're
on bigger
nobodies.
podcasts. I mean, I was
You
on. I have already. I just enjoy being on podcasts, and I haven't been on one in a while. So I was like, you guys are my friends, and I wanted to.
Aww.
You
This
know,
is wholesome.
I
Awesome moment.
enjoy chatting with you on a regular basis. and I just wanted to be on a podcast.
Oh,
And
thanks.
any podcast
Yay.
would do, and one with lovely people, of course,
Yay.
would be
Yay.
my first choice over one with bigger cloud. So I want to be on a podcast so I can tell fun stories and make people laugh. And
This was really fun.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
listening
People
to
understand
these
that I'm not-
stories.
We'll be sure to have you back for more.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do
I'm
maybe
not
a
looking
second.
for clout through podcasts.
I
But of
want
course-
to
Best
do
place
a
to find clout. The best
Please
place.
do follow me at Tucker World on Instagram
Mhm.
and at Tucker World _ on Twitter.
So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the new Slappin Kpop podcast. We are now on Spotify finally, and Google
Mhm.
Podcasts and Apple Podcast, and all of the other podcasting sites now. If you're listening to us on one of there, we also have a YouTube channel where we post all of our podcast episodes, along with really fun like clip ranking videos every week now that we're having a lot of fun making. We also have a Twitter at New Slappin Kpop, and we also recently started an Instagram, which is mostly going to be a collective K-pop collection Instagram that we are now going to start posting on more now that everyone has gotten their Lucy albums. Is what we were waiting on. But thank you for watching this episode, and thank you so much, Tuck, for being a guest on this podcast. We had a lot of fun doing this.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much
very
for having me. I had an absolute blast.
I'm glad
And
you
I
had
would love
fun
to be back
because
for more episodes
yes,
as soon as
you
You
possible.
will be. We
You
will
definitely
invite
will
you
be.
for more.
Please do invite me back. I'm very excited to do All Stars of K-pop with you.
yes. All right, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.